Hello, this is the podium mic, and there is a cup of water here, which is cold. Are you getting me here? Testing one with the thumb up. I got the thumb up. Good morning. This is the other mic. Sounds a little different. Maybe there's a. I can't. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm holding. Could use a little bit more bass. That doesn't, I'm sorry, but that doesn't make any sense since you should be getting you don't have separate leads. Oh, maybe you do. I don't know how it's set up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Let's try this one here, and I'll come over there and play with the button. And this is the Billy Joel mic. Are you getting this? I am the piano man. Choo-choo, ka-choo, ka-choo, ka-choo. Doodle. This is the piano musician's mic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
Testing, testing. It's very loud in here. You are? Well, I know that. Okay.
Good morning on this Memorial Day Sunday. Good morning. This Sunday, when we are rolling our worship time back to 11 a.m. I know for some of you, if you started coming in the last year, 10:30 felt quote unquote normal for you, but for me, it always felt half an hour early. And the board and I decided we'd roll our worship time back to 11, and here you are. And who enjoyed an extra half hour for one more cup of coffee, one more bike ride around the neighborhood, one more phone call with a beloved who is in a different time zone? One thing many of us have been able to practice due to COVID is the art of flexibility. And so here we are on Memorial Day Sunday. I got to practice the art of flexibility because it turns out our music director is not able to be with us today. She is at home sick this morning. So Terry will be playing music from my phone. Yeah, and just here we all are as you come in. Take a seat and come into our house of hope and love, of peace and justice, of wholeness and healing, of laughter and continued flexibility. We welcome the certain and the seeking, the lifers and the newcomers, the beloved and the brokenhearted, and all of you can find a home here at Throop, where we go love the world from the heart of Pasadena and from the very heart of our homes. One way some of us will love the world this week is on Saturday evening. There is going to be a walk against gun violence. That walk will be here in Pasadena. Details about that were in the worship announcement that went out this morning, and we'll also have it in Tuesday Tidings, and you'll all be welcome to participate. And again, it's Saturday, 6 p.m., and we're invited to wear a shade of orange. We're also inviting people to explore Pasadena and the environs by doing a scavenger hunt to find some places that were part of Throop's history. And when you find those places, to take a selfie or have someone else take your picture in front of that landmark. And the details for that are on the website. They'll also be in the Tuesday Tidings. And we had a deadline of Tuesday, May 31st. Any of you who are participating and take pictures, we may show them at the annual meeting. And who knows when the Throop annual meeting is going to be? Stephen Torres, when's it going to be? Yes, he got it. Sunday the 5th at 12:30. Your board will have refreshments for you, and it will be in person, and we'll also be doing it by Zoom. It'll be our first hybrid congregational meeting. We're really glad you're spending Sunday morning with us. Each one of us is a light in the world, and the flame from our chalice symbolizes and reflects that light.
Our time together in worship is intimately connected with our daily lives. As a symbol of that connection, we light our chalice in a spirit of love, compassion, and justice. May we praise the beauty of this morning, a day offering us promise and hope. May the sunlight awaken in us gratitude for this new day in front of us. We light a second candle to honor the people and ancestors whose lands we now occupy. The land under and around Throop was once and still is the home of the Gabrielino Tongva band of Mission Indian people. May this knowledge and awareness lead us into seeking justice and equity for all. We light a third candle symbolizing our watershed, the Arroyo Seco. May their waters continue to nourish life in our communities. We take a moment of silence, holding all of these in our hearts.
And our welcoming music is Morning Has Broken by Cat Stevens. And as morning continues to break open in our hearts, I invite you to turn gently to a neighbor and welcome them into our worship space. I'm on like, I want to go. Hello. It is always so good to be together. I'd like to thank Lynn Weber. She is coordinating our coffee and conversation on the patio after service. And if you're someone who loves coffee and conversation, we would love for you to volunteer to coordinate a future one. It's pretty simple. We can show you how to make coffee in the kitchen so we can have conversation. You could let me know if you would like to sign up for that after service, or you can email me or text me, but not after June 5th because I'm going on vacation. For real. All right, our responsive reading this morning, it's from a UU compilation of readings called Lifting Our Voices, and it's by Owen Dodson. The congregational response words are in your order of worship. You might have a hard copy of that, or maybe you brought it up on the phone. And if you have neither, you've heard these words already this month. Your response is, we make promises to honor love, compassion, and justice above all else. So let's say that together. We promise to honor love, compassion, and justice above all else. Who are these among you, homesick for home, longing for peace, the summer going and the war going, and all the sharp promises of peace? We make promises to honor love, compassion, and justice above all else. Watch from your foxholes for fire on distant mountains, fire flags lit with peace waving on the mountains. We make promises to honor love, compassion, and justice above all else. There are other journeys you must make after your journey home, other journeys you must make alone into the countries of the heart to sit with silence and decide alone. We make promises to honor love, compassion, and justice above all else. And we know there are times in each of our lives when we must make a journey of some kind, a spiritual journey of some kind alone. We're the only one who can truly know that path and take it. But we can have people accompanying us from the sidelines, reminding us that we are not in it all by ourselves. And this church is that for so many of us here. It's our spiritual and religious home, and thank you for the many ways you support it through your offerings of time, talent, and treasure. If you are able to make a financial contribution this morning, we thank you so much for doing that. And you can make an offering in one of three ways. You can give online or text to give, and the ways to do that are in your order of worship. If you're with us in the room, the offering plate will come down the aisle. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for doing that. And the morning offering will now be gratefully received. And as we give thanks for this community and our offering, please share with me the words that are in your order of worship. For the ministries of the church and our community, we bless our offering with love and hope. And in that spirit of the morning breaking so beautifully today, I invite you to take a breath in, holding a spirit of gratitude for the beauty of earth, and exhale, holding a spirit of gratitude for this community that embraces us. And we share together in the words for our promise to our planet. As members of the family of living beings on earth, we are guided by the Unitarian Universalist principle of respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. With hearts filled with love for it, eyes nurtured by its beauty, and minds ruminating on ways to protect its sacred and scarce resources, we promise to nurture the well-being of all life and of the planet itself. I invite you to take another gentle breath in together, then exhale. And take a breath in together. Exhale. I like it. Someone's moving their head and shoulders around. If you haven't already fully landed into this space, now's a good time to do that. We'll sit together in a few breaths, feeling connected to ourselves, feeling connected to one another, and feeling connected to our earth. And on this Memorial Day Sunday, I just invite you into a space of some contemplation as we acknowledge the suffering and loss and moral injury that is inflicted and endured by acts of war. And we remember the deaths of those who served in the military, those whose lives ended way too soon, carrying out the orders to occupy another people and another place. And if you are someone in this room who has lost a family member or a friend who died in war, if you lost a family member or a friend who died while serving in the military during peacetime, or if your family was in any way affected by war or conflict, including those people who served in the military, those people who supported them from home, we have a bowl of water here and a few stones, and just as you feel moved to, I would invite you to come forward and place a stone in the bowl and either out loud or just silently to say their name. And if you're with us on the live stream and you would like to participate, you could write that name in the chat, and either Steve or Taryn can come and put stones in our bowl of water on your behalf. As the stones were dropped in the bowl, small ripples of water formed, and those ripples are a reminder that the impacts of war reach far, touches people who have never served, touch people who live in non-conflict zones, and touches all creatures of the earth and sky. For all that is our life together, we give our thanks and our praise. Amen. Each Sunday when we come into the sanctuary, for the most part, you all sit in the pews and you gaze this way, and you may at times gaze up at this beautiful stained glass window behind me. And you may not fully realize there's another stained glass window in the sanctuary. You can turn, it's back there above the balcony. And if you're in the very back row, if you can't see it, you may need to come forward just a little bit. Anne Honeywell shared information with me about that window, and it's a window that Amos Throop, our co-founder, had made to commemorate his son, George Throop. His son, George, served in the military and fought in the Civil War. He died of wounds at Sabine Crossroads on the Red River in Louisiana on April 8th, 1864, and George Throop was 24 years old at the time. My understanding from Anne, and I'm looking at you because she's going to let me know if I get it wrong, each of those panels is one of the battles that George Throop fought in, and she's holding up a picture right now that I'm going to mention in just a minute of George and his dad, Amos. And in the very center, you'll notice that there are two brass cannons, and Anne says that Amos Throop and the Chicago Episcopalians and the Chicago Universalists raised the money for those actual cannons, even though the Universalists were pacifist. She's nodding yes, I'm getting it right, okay. And during this time of war, there's a letter that George Throop's mother wrote to her daughter in which she commented, "Our people are pouring out their money and men upon the altar of freedom." And in the very last battle he fought, George sustained terrible wounds, and it was clear he wouldn't survive. And the chaplain, who maybe was also driving the ambulance, was a Universalist chaplain, and we think were some of George Throop's friends from the Universalist Church in Chicago, and he stayed with him on the field until he died. So in the information Anne shared with me, she also sent me the picture that she just held up. And we have a very large painting of Amos that's in the church. Now, it used to be in the back of the sanctuary, and he was so stern in that portrait that it was a little unsettling for new people in the church. So we actually moved him because we thought he would be happier overseeing staff operations. And he actually has a twinkle in his eye now in that portrait. For real. You can look at it after the service. He doesn't look nearly as stern. But in the photo that Anne shared of Amos and his son, he actually looks almost jovial. And they both look like very happy and easygoing in that picture. And so as I read about George's death on the battlefield and him taking his last breaths, I wondered how Amos and his wife and their daughter would have taken the news about his death. And I imagine it hit them like it would hit any of us, that the world must have gone dim and their hearts stopped with grief and nothing would have made sense as they tried to fill a void that would be unfillable. I don't think parents ever get over the death of a child. How could they? And this week in our country, we are asking once again for the parents of 19 children and 2 teachers to get over and get on after the death of their children. President Joe Biden, responding to the horrific shooting in Texas, described what it feels like to lose a child. He said, to lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it, and you are never the same again. Each and every time we enlist a young person into the military, each and every time our government decides to go to war, we ask parents of those children to prepare their hearts for this potential loss. And each and every time a young person enlists in the military, and each and every time our government decides to go to war, we ask those young people who enlist to lose a part of themselves. Our souls are not made to take the life of another person. In their book, Soul Repair, Recovering from Moral Injury After War, theologians Rita Nakashimi-Brock and Gabriella Latini explore the military training process that readies people to kill, a process that results in loss of self and loss of humanity. When someone is put in a position to kill another person or to enact great harm or suffering on another person, they are experiencing moral injury. And Brock and Latini define moral injury as something separate from PTSD. They say that moral injury comes from having transgressed one's basic moral identity and violated core moral beliefs. That moral injury is feelings of guilt and shame as a result of committing an act that violates one's moral conscience, or witnessing a similar act that one was unable or unwilling to prevent. And in their book, they interview 4 different veterans who were part of a process called Truth Commission on Conscience in War. And they talk to them about their feelings and experiences of what it was like to be trained to kill someone else in battle. And one of the people they interviewed was someone named Mac. Mac was a veteran who volunteered for service in the Vietnam War. He's not an absolute pacifist. He believes that sometimes there is just war. Mac trained as an educator in college, and right out of college got a job teaching in public school, and so Mac could have deferred out of Vietnam. But before that happened, one of Mac's closest childhood friends who was serving in Vietnam was killed while fighting. His friend was 19. And Mac, as he considered whether or not to take the deferment, he thought, how could I ever look Mac's parents in the face again, knowing all they had lost, if I chose not to go? If I chose not to try to fight for the values in the country that my dear friend lost his life in service of. And so he went. And once he arrived there, he realized that he was so ill prepared to live through this experience of the utter devastation of war. And today he speaks publicly about war and its effects, and he wants people to hear about how combat impacted his life and impacted his soul. And he describes these feelings in a poem he wrote while serving in Vietnam. He wrote, "I feel I am no longer alien to this horror. I am the horror. I have lost my humanity and have embraced the insanity of war. The monster and I are one. The blood of innocence forever stains my soul. The transformation is complete, and I can never return. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa." Had George Throop survived the war, I wonder how he would have spoken about that experience with his dad and mom and sister. I wondered if he would have come home forever transformed and forever different from that affable young man Anne can show you later in that photograph. I wonder, had Amos Throop been able to hear about his son's lived experience and how it impacted him later, how that might have changed or transformed Amos's heart, how it might have transformed the very foundation of this church that holds us today. A war doesn't end when the troops return. It simply comes home and embeds itself in civilian life. In religious and moral traditions, moral conscience defines soul not only for the individual, but for the whole community. And such conscience is grounded in empathy and compassion for others and the capacity to recognize what is good and to recognize when something is profoundly wrong. David Pyle, UU minister and Army chaplain, spoke about Memorial Day. He wrote, "We do not honor the casualties of war with flowers and speeches, but by truly and deeply remembering the cost of war when we contemplate sending our service members of today into harm's way. We honor them by remembering that war is a hell that should rarely, if ever, be unleashed." Religious communities need to take responsibility for helping those with moral injury to help with the repair of their souls. We are uniquely placed to do that. That's our business. Brock and Latini write that veterans need each other, and they may never share with the rest of us what they share with each other. But they also need those of us with whom they must learn to live again. They need us to listen, and that requires patience when they are silent, and it requires patience with any confusion, grief, anger, or shame that their silence or their stories may carry. We must be willing to listen carefully without judgment, and it is not for us to forgive them, but to let them know that their lives today mean something to us. I like to imagine that perhaps we all would have a new stained glass window installed somewhere here, one that would be a partner to George Throop's memorial window in the back. One that would symbolize our intent to help heal moral injury after war. And it would have at least 3 panels, and I bet some of you would have ideas for additional panels to have in such a window. And I think one panel would for sure show and indicate our duty as citizens to elect leaders that would rarely, if ever, send people into war. I think we'd have a panel that indicates our larger community responsibility to show up for our veterans once they come home and ensure that they have not just adequate but abundant housing, meaningful work, physical health care, emotional health care. And then a panel that symbolizes our own intent as a religious community to welcome veterans into this sanctuary, to know that they are safe and wanted here, and for us to be an active partner in their spiritual healing from whatever they experienced in wartime. There is so much each week and each day that we are asked to hold. I invite you to consider more after today this idea of moral injury and how we as a congregation can show up for people who need some repair and healing for their souls. And let us show up always together. May it be so. Place a hand on your heart and stretch a hand out to the live stream or someone else in the room. Our chalice is extinguished. May we carry its light with us. And today and tomorrow, may we remember well those who have served in the military, who have lost their lives, who have suffered moral injury due to serving. May you all, with your courageous hearts, go out into the world and spread your kindness, love, compassion, and justice. I love you all. Go out and love the world. Amen and blessed be. And we can continue the conversation on the patio with coffee.